Hello, this is Kayvon, and we have Eli Robinson here for FranFunnel episode 9, FranFunnel Live. Eli, I want to keep this one really short and sweet, very actionable.
All right.
Based on your experience seeing now, dozens of different accounts and maybe hundreds of thousands of text messages,
Something like that, yeah.
I'd like to understand some best practices and maybe some mistakes to avoid as far as using texting technology for franchise sales. So maybe we can start off with some of the common mistakes that you see that traps people fall into.
Yeah, so I think the most common mistake that people make is they make the texts too robotic, too like a machine is sending them, so I have to make it sound like a machine is sending them. When really it's like, no, you don't. Like, no one wants to receive communication from a machine. We know that. So things like, text back to unsubscribe, or this is data rates may apply, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, what you want to do is initiate a conversation as if you are a person, even though we're actually using a machine to send it to another person, right? Don't be weird, right? Just send what you would send your friend. Generally, we recommend, hey, whatever the lead name is, this is whoever. I'd love to hop on the phone, or I'd love to talk about what we're talking about. What time's good for you, right? Mm-hmm. I'd say making it normal, I think, is the number one thing that people kind of sometimes mess up on. The second one I would say is, and we see this very weird thing that's happened a lot recently, is people are trying to use text messaging to get people to check their emails, which is really weird, right? So it's like this flow where someone's sending a text and like, hey, make sure to check your inbox and your spam inbox in case it went there. That's not really what text messaging is for. Text messaging is in and of itself a situation where you want to communicate with people. You don't want to use it as a vehicle to direct people somewhere else. Maybe down the road after you've established the relationship, but my skin tingles and the data plays itself out. When you send people a text message asking them to check their email, it really just doesn't work.
Got it. Why do you think people are trying to move folks over from one channel where they're already communicating over text and trying to push people over to email?
Yeah, inertia. They've used email for so long, and email is such a proven thing for them that they see their funnel flowing through email. They can't imagine a world in which email is not core and an actual gate that they have to step through. So that lack of imagination or lack of capability to say, hey, wait a second, can I actually establish relationships over text message instead of doing it via email? I think it just causes the disruption can be a little strong for some franchises out there.
So then how do you feel about folks who want to embed a link to, say, their calendar to schedule time? Is that something to avoid, or is that actually a good technique?
You know all the right questions to ask. So people don't really text a lot of links to their friends and family, right? If you think about text messaging, you're not sitting there being like, oh, here's this thing that you have to see. A little bit, but certainly not a lot. And because of that, I see links in text actually not doing very well. When someone you've never met before sends you a text message with a link in it, schedule time with me or read this, the odds that you're going to be motivated to take that action are really low. You've never met this person before. There's all these kind of questions of like, what the hell is going to happen to my phone? Like, is this spammy? Is this a virus? Whatever it may be. So we don't really see it being effective. I could see in the future it being more effective as kind of perhaps use cases for text messages in general changes. But gosh, links in text right now are just pretty poor.
Got it. What are you seeing work particularly well? I mean, what are some guidelines you give folks who are new to texting in franchise sales on how they should think about setting up their texting program?
Yeah, so the first thing that we ask them to do is to put themselves in the shoes of the leads. What would the leads want to hear in an ideal world, right? So think about what the CTAs were on your website. What are the CTAs on the portal? Like, what is it that...
CTA being?
Call to action. Like, why is it that they submitted their contact information? And put yourself in their person's shoes. Like, how do you want to be communicated with, assuming that was the case? Most of the time when we do that exercise, people are like, oh yeah, I would like to, send a text message. I'd like to introduce myself, and basically offer to do the next step for whatever they submitted their information. The thing that we layer on top of that is franchise salespeople are not superhumans, right? They're normal as well. So we want to put ourselves in the shoes of the leads, ask themselves what is it that they want to receive, and then put the lens of what the sales team is actually capable of doing. For example, If a lead comes in Saturday morning at 2 a.m., right? Franchise salesperson is not available to speak at that time. So you can't really send a text message that says, hey, let's hop on the phone, right? Because you're not around, you're not awake. So start with what the leads want to receive and then layer in what you're actually able to do and accomplish. And that's kind of how we get to this happy medium of what ultimately these messages should say.
So you do think it's important that the text be context aware, where the lead came from, what time it came in, the day of the week. That's an important aspect of the messaging.
Right, so you can be infinitely complex, right? You could send a different text message for every minute of the day, every city in America, every name. There's no shortage to the way we can customize and personalize and all these kind of things. I will say that we kind of want to find a happy medium between the super complex and segmented with the general. So that's why we're the experts. That's why we help people with this, and they're not just on their own trying to figure out what to do. Going for the infinitely complex, which we actually have some clients that go for these very complicated text message strategies, we do see some gains to be had there, but it comes at the cost of having to kind of process all this stuff mentally and remember this and that and the other. So I don't know. That's what we have a conversation at the beginning when everybody comes on, and we continue the conversation so that we make sure that we find the right program for the franchises.
Okay. Last question. This comes up, I guess, from time to time. You talk about communicating over text with leads the way you might with a friend.
Yeah.
Right? So does that extend to things like GIFs and emoji and maybe these more casual forms of communication?
Yeah, so I think it depends on your brand. There's some brands out there that are more casual. We work with a brand that's a dance studio. And it's a little bit more casual. So when you're communicating with people, I think it's okay to be more casual. We're onboarding a specialty retailer right now. And so I want to perhaps use emojis to kind of like help that retailer get across how specialty they are, right? But a lot of franchises have very serious brands, let's be honest. They're not whimsical, they're not playful. So I want to be careful about using text message to promote something that's off-brand, because after you're talking to them, they're buying into your brand, right? Ultimately, that's why they're electing to work with you. So I don't want to be too kind of ostentatious in how we do the marketing from the beginning. But once again, that's why we work together on this, so we can understand kind of how people perceive the different franchises that are out there, how we think leads actually behave, and kind of come up with the right way from there.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks so much for the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Sure.